Hello, today I wanted to take a moment and share with you my process of a low to no oxygen transfer from the fermenter to the keg. The key component to this that you may not already have in your arsenal is what's called a cold crash guardian. Typically this is used in the cold crash process so that you don't accidentally suck any of the sanitizer back into the fermenter. Instead, this is a blow-off tube with a bag on it that fills up with CO2 from the fermentation process. What I end up doing is reversing that and filling the bag with CO2 during the emptying of the fermenter into the keg. We'll go ahead and roll footage so that I can show you how that's all set up. I start by filling my keg with Star San in order to sanitize the vessel, and then I cap it with the lid. From there I hook up my picnic line, which we'll go ahead and hang off the side there. We also hook up the CO2 line, and we set the pressure to serving temperature, which is about 10 psi. You can do a little more, a little less if you'd like. From there we're going to go ahead and just turn on the gas. This not only pressurizes the keg and helps us check for leaks, but it also gets us ready to purge the Star San that's in the container as well. So we're going to go ahead and open up the picnic tap and simply just let that drain out. And what that's doing is it's removing all the liquid that's in here and replacing it with CO2. So that way we can be ready with a no oxygen vessel. Now that we have a sanitized keg filled with CO2, we're ready to start this process. Everything else you see here has been sanitized with Star San. I suppose we'll start from this end. From this end, we've got the blow-off container, which is filled with Star San. It's just simply a growler. Tubing goes from that to the in post of my keg. On the outpost is where we hook up the fermenter. The reason being, of course, is that there is a tube that goes from here all the way to the bottom. So that way we don't have splashing going on inside of the keg. From there, the tubing goes from the keg over to the fermenter spout on the bottom. Then when we come up to the top, we have this guy. This, of course, is the cold crash guardian. It's used to help preserve the beer during the cold crash process, so that way you don't suck any of the Star San into the fermenter. This just fills up with CO2 during the fermenting process. What I do during this process is I simply remove this little half PSI valve that only allows pressure out of this contraption, and instead I just put my CO2 tank on it instead. Reason being, as the beer empties this container, it will also empty this bag, and during that process I can just open up the CO2 here and fill the bag back up. Of course, keep this at a low PSI. You don't want to rupture this bag during the process. That would suck. But yeah, that's the whole setup there. I suppose without further ado, we'll go ahead and get this process started. I'll start by, of course, relieving any extra CO2 that has built up in the container. We'll go ahead and hook in this post. Saw a little bubbling in there, so that tells me everything is hooked up properly. Now we should be good to open this valve and see our beer start to come out. And there it goes. Oh, we had a little dark spot. Apparently we picked up a little bit of what was on the bottom there. Anyway, from here we just let the keg fill. I'll come back in a little bit to kind of show you how, because I cold crashed the beer, you'll be able to see the line of where it is in the keg. But yeah, that's the whole process. Oh yeah, and there goes the growler. You can see it bubbling and relieving all of that CO2 that is being pushed out of the system. Now that this contraption has had some time to move some beer, let's show you some of the updates on things you want to pay attention to. First of all, you'll notice that this bag is starting to deflate. We're going to go ahead and open the CO2 and just fill that bag back up. And we will have to do this a couple times through the process since this is a 2.5 gallon bag. And that's good. Also, if we come over to the keg, because I cold crashed this beer, we can kind of notice a line right here because of the cold liquid that's entering the vessel. So this kind of gives me an indication of how far along in the process we are and when we are done. And speaking of when we are done, we will just simply close this valve right here, unhook both of those terminals, and that's it. You have a kegged beer that has gone through no oxygen in the process. Really important for those New England IPAs just like this guy. So there you have it. That's my process for moving beer from the fermenter to the keg with low to no oxygen in the process. If you have any questions on the process, feel free to leave a comment below. Otherwise, until next time, cheers.